Welcome to Early U.S. Foreign Policy and Imperialism. This is Melinda Klein. As European nations scrambled for new territories in Asia and Africa, Americans worried about being left behind. By applying the doctrines of social Darwinism, this perspective gave American policymakers and business partners cover to interfere in political matters when deemed necessary. Social Darwinism encouraged commerce, Christianity, and civilization to non-Western peoples, all the while industrial nations with factories and shipyards hungered for distant raw materials from tropical venues. This commercial dependency contributed to a boom in international trade goods. The new imperialists were not traditional conquerors or empire builders like the Spanish conquistadors. Their aim was to extend their power over new territories and people, but also to control both the natural world and the indigenous societies more effectively than had ever been done in the past. Their three objectives became, number 1, taming the wilderness, number 2, opening new international markets for manufactured goods to be sold, and number 3, shortening time spent shipping with new technologies and solutions. During the 19th century, tea, chocolate, and coffee saw dramatic increases in European and American sales. All the while, with trade came the influx of new ideas and technology brought about with engineering projects. In Latin America, new harbors built by American business interests for reasons of trade made the transportation of coffee beans to harbor warehouses much easier. By the 1890s, the United States had a fast-growing population and industries that produced more manufactured goods than could be sold at home. U.S. merchants and bankers encouraged expanding to overseas markets. A very important and influential book at this time in bringing the United States onto the world stage was by far the influence of sea power upon history, written by Alfred T. Mahan. Mahan argues, and rightly so, to be a great and independent world power, such as the British or the French, depending on the time period, was to have a strong navy. History bears this out. Mahan's line of argument fit into the American Manifest Destiny philosophy, and also the urgency of expansion to do good in a world, an evil world, a remnant of Massachusetts Puritanism to create a city upon a hill, for the world to model, an 18th century American characteristic. The Mexican Revolution was an armed revolt led by bands of Mexican peasants from 1910 to 1921. The peasantry drew arms in effort to end the rule of dictator Porfirio Diaz. The effects of poverty among the Mexican laboring class heightened during the Diaz administration. In the United States, the stability of the Mexican government would likely see continued foreign trade and commerce between the two countries. This was the primary political agenda by U.S. policymakers. The United States' interests regarding the popular revolt centered on monitoring its progress and supporting a Mexican government that would support and continue commercial interests. How the Mexican government treated their own population was deemed to be an internal situation resolved only by the Mexican government. The U.S. presidents who would create a gradual move towards an expanded foreign policy would be Chester Arthur and Grover Cleveland. Treaties for reasons of trade were made with Mexico and in South America. Political advisors suggested that treaties in both countries would benefit and unite such nations while their culture or political agendas might be different. As the nation pressed hard to become a world power, foreign affairs often played a central role. National leaders debated on how to best respond to increasing commercial competition amidst the international power and presence of Europeans around the world as international rivals. All the while, nationalism caught the hearts and minds of colonial peoples. Such was the case for colonies of the Spanish Empire by the 1890s. In 1878, the United States obtained in the Pacific the harbor of Pago Pago in Samoa as a naval station, and 1887, Pearl Harbor in Hawaii for the same purpose. 6 years later, American settlers, sugar plantation owners, and merchants deposed Queen Liliuokalani in a political coup. Prior to annexation, the Hawaiian Islands were recognized internationally as a sovereign state, self-governing. From 1875, the United States enjoyed a free trade agreement with Hawaii, as sugar coming into the United States did not incur import duties. This economic bonus encouraged more planting of sugar across the Hawaiian Islands, creating a significant foreign presence. During 1892, Queen Liliuokalani and her advisor struggled over the presence and the role of foreigners in her country. In the same year, in a dictator-like fashion, the Queen dismissed her political advisors and created a constitution that nullified the powers formerly held by white settlers. American advocates who argued to annex Hawaii only fanned the flames of an internal revolt causing civil disorder. Acts of American diplomacy and the Navy were called into action. The course of events that transpired created a political coup in which, with the help of 150 American Marines, the Queen gave in and a provisional government was set up in its place. With this pro-white settler government in place after the revolt, the United States agreed to a treaty of annexation in 1893. In Canada and the United States, both former British colonies in heritage, became manufacturing centers, created powerful corporations, and banking arose. In the former territories of Spain and Portugal, this would be Latin America and the Caribbean, these nations exported raw materials and foodstuffs and imported manufactured goods. The poverty of their people made them increasingly dependent on foreign investment to build railroads and harbors, enabling these Latin American republics to ship out the desired raw materials and engage in an active international trade economy. The manipulation of Latin American republics is called free trade imperialism, and this is included from time to time military intervention by the United States in efforts to control its financial interests under the Monroe Doctrine.